Welcome Virgo to your in-depth monthly forecast for November 2026. I'm going to share with you some of the big themes of the month to look forward to. Then on screen, your event chart right at the beginning of November always provides an influential backdrop for the whole month. I'll then go through all the key influences in detail to give you a clear picture of what to look forward to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, we have found that over 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. If that's you, please help the channel to continue to thrive and do so now. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. Under this video, you can also enjoy your year 2026 deep dive video forecast. Get the inside track on what the new year holds. Now, as you come into this month, Mercury, your ruler, your brilliant ruler, is located in the sign of Sagittarius, where it is detrimental. Sagittarius energy loves the big picture, but can be quite restless. Mercury's influence over your sign is about precision, and over the sign of Gemini, about crisp, quick communication. In the fourth house, the challenge for us can be to convert how we feel, which is very fourth house energy, in a way that we can explain ourselves that works, and that can find us a bit tongue-tied at times. Also, right at the start of this month, Mercury's in an electric opposition with the restless Uranus. And with Mars emerging from a very positive transit for you through the sign of Scorpio, and in an excellent ground water trine right at the start of the month, that does give you the chance to connect with people who are good for you, friends particularly, friends that offer you both a stability but also an opportunity. But then Mars joins up with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius on the 4th, and 2 goes into an opposition with Uranus. So I think early in this month there could be a lot of restlessness and maybe a challenge balancing what you want in terms of your home and emotional life and what's demanded of you in terms of your work or worldly interactions. But of course your ruler Mercury is a very, very powerful influence, but particularly through the retrogrades. Now, retrogrades can be more than 3 a year. They can be part of a fourth. This year there's 3, and the final one does begin on the 9th of this month, but actually the pre-retrograde shadow began on the 21st of October. The retrograde completes on the 29th, but by then Mercury is back in your 3rd house. Very chatty, very Gemini-like. So I think this is a month where communications with others are going to be very important, but not just because of Mercury, but also because of the 2 lunations on the 5th and on the 20th. So I'll unpack that for you as well. Now, Jupiter is the planet of plenty, the planet of luck. It too goes into a retrograde. What's the significance of that? And then later this month, the Sun plays catch up with Mars and also is going to be joined by Venus moving into Sagittarius on the very last day. So I'll explore all of that for you, Virgo. But before I do, I'd just like to tell you about my unique special offer. You can order your personal forecast for year 2026, totally individual to you. You can order that now, get the rest of this year free, but also with my special package, get 30% off and your Life Roadmap Report. For me, the Life Roadmap Report, the natal chart, the Radix interpretation is the most powerful document any of us will ever read, because understanding the patterns that are played out in our lives all the way through our lives helps us to work future forwards in a much more effective way. But in that special package of 30% off, you'll also get your free gift of a general zodiac, a love zodiac, an Indian zodiac and a Chinese zodiac forecast booklets, which will be sent to you with the chart. Please see the link below for more. But on the screen now is your event chart. you can see that you have a cluster of players in your 7th house. And that suggests relationships are going to be important this month. Now, I mentioned about communication. So communication around relationships, I think, is going to be significant. And because of the position of Jupiter, Mars and Saturn and Neptune right at the start of the month, as I mentioned, if you're connecting to someone that you feel comfortable and secure with, and you can really truly be yourself, that is a relationship that can go places. Having the moon in the 7th house also gives you the instincts to attune to other people very skillfully. The position of the sun in Scorpio, which can be passionate, is in the 3rd house of quick communication, but linking back brilliantly to that position of the moon. So what I'd say to you is that if you can blend your feelings with your connections, you could see some significant discussions around all sorts of interactions with others, whether it's a contract, a job opportunity, perhaps even friendship or romantically. Now, Venus is the planet of love and affection, but also of money, and it starts this month in your 2nd house. Now, it too is going to be on the move on the 6th, and actually into a great location for you, but it is challenged by Saturn at the start of this month. If you're trying to align to someone who doesn't share your values, that can show up, to be honest. So I'm going to go through the details of this month. On the 4th, Mars moves into the sign of Sagittarius. Mars in Sagittarius is very much the adventurer, but in the 4th house, that's a kind of counterintuitive energy. So what you may want to do, especially if you're not particularly satisfied with where you live, you could find yourself exploring opportunities to relocate. Then again, Mars in the 4th house can be about your emotional world. Sagittarius can be about knowledge. You could use the desire of Mars to get better informed about what makes you tick. The full moon on the 5th, however, is in your sister Earth sign of Taurus. The moon loves being here. It's in an opposition with the sun in Scorpio. So one of the things we all need to be conscious of is not being too attached to a specific way of doing things, because that fixed energy and being inflexible is not going to be helpful. But it's a full moon that's blessed by the North Node, so it can be very helpful. I think a big conversation can happen over the following 2 weeks. Getting clearer about where someone else is coming from will be part of that. Venus moves to catch up with the sun on the 6th. Venus in the 3rd house can see your usual words with great effect, but it does clash with Pluto. It's important to be sincere. Then Uranus inverts back into your 9th house. Over the last 7 years, you may have found yourself with a much higher desire for personal freedom and space. You're a zodiac sign that can pick up responsibilities and obligations better than most, but I think Uranus moving back here and also Pluto being in your 6th house suggests if you're not really feeling it around your work and you don't feel very comfortable around your work, maybe that's where the conversations and thinking needs to come up. The 9th, however, sees Mercury go fully and formally into the retrograde. It's going to be retrograde through to the 29th, and across those 20 days inverts back into the sign of Scorpio, but it starts initially in that 4th house. If you're planning anything to do with the Christmas celebrations with family members, the potential for crosswise is quite strong initially, to be honest. But we also know that Mercury retrogrades can be a window of celestial opportunity. We mustn't feel they will always blight us. And for you, it may be rethinking some of the way you do connect to people who are close to you, even people immediately around you in your neighbourhood. If you do have a home-based business or you work remotely, Mercury's retrograde could throw up some issues around that. The 11th, however, sees Jupiter join Mercury in a retrograde. Jupiter retains a very strong alliance with Saturn all through this month, however. And for you, Jupiter retrograde is in your 9th house. If you are thinking about jetting off anywhere through the second 2/3 of this month, and particularly with Mercury retrograde, make sure you micro-check the details. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, So it's a great place for it to be, but it hasn't had the best of starts there due to Saturn at that time in a punishing right angle. So I think that Jupiter retrograde, there are still opportunities with it, more than there were earlier in the summer when Jupiter first went into Cancer at the end of the first week of June. But on the 12th, you may find yourself surprisingly niggly or perhaps even a little bit defensive, especially about the aforementioned Christmas arrangements. If someone's not being very logical or wanting it all on their own terms, you may find that quite triggering. Also, if you are working with contractors at home and they're not being reliable, showing up on time, or perhaps in some ways being tricky to deal with, it can be much more difficult to harbour your frustration. The 19th, however, sees Mercury invert back into the third house. Care's needed through the next 10 days around any kind of electronic media or communication. Don't rush texts or emails. But you could also think or connect with someone in your locality more closely. The 20th sees the new moon in Scorpio. The moon's not happy in Scorpio. She's in her fall. But for you, I actually think this is a really strong new moon. The theme that I mentioned at the outset about communication is highlighted even more with this new moon. But this is a new moon where you can share how you feel with conviction and also put across your ideas in a way that other people can be receptive to. I think it can be helpful to you. I really genuinely do. There's also a lovely link between Venus and Saturn and Jupiter that's coalescing around this new moon. Saturn also ends its 5-month retrograde on the 28th. You'll take that, won't we? Because it's in your sector of relationships, as it has been since the 1st of September, and before that from the 25th of May back to the start of the year. So if there has been some heavy weather around certain relationships, I feel Saturn going forwards definitely helps. The 29th, as I mentioned before, Mercury goes direct. Some of the tangles can start to unravel, but it will still be in its post-retrograde shadow through to the 17th of December. So not everything may completely sort itself out until next mid-month. The end of the month, however, sees Venus move into your 4th house. If you are wanting in some ways to host some close family members or make some changes to your home to make it more cozy and comfy, some new home furnishings, get a carpet fitted, perhaps some decoration, that can call out to you as the month comes to a close. Wishing you a great November, Virgo. Please check out that year 2026 deep dive Virgo video below.